Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1980s.
I really liked your story, Frankie. I wish I was as weird as you.
This is episode 217, recorded October 5th, 2022. You're very close, Crystal. I think you may be more weird to me. But anyway.
Gruesome Magazine.
All right, my name is Jeff Mohr, and this podcast is about horror films released between 1980 and 1989. Each episode, my co-hosts Bill Mulligan, Crystal Cleveland, and Chad Hunt and I tackle another classic or not so classic film from this radical, gory, influential, and gruesome decade. On this podcast, we usually start with a few basic details of the film, do some taglines, get our first impressions of the movie, take off down the road wherever our crisscrossing weird thoughts take us. Joining me tonight is Crystal Cleveland, the Living Dead Girl and co-host of the Gruesome Magazine podcast. How you doing, Crystal?
I'm fabulous.
You are.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm great. I never have any fun, cute, and or witty hellos, howdy doodies.
Well, see,
what's up, guys?
There's your problem.
Yeah.
You're trying to think of
too
fun
hard?
and witty stuff. I just say the first stupid thing that comes to my mind.
Oh, you don't want me to do that. That's not a good idea for me.
maybe not. Maybe not.
That's not a free range crystal is not good. That's
Free-range
not
crystal.
good. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, Chad Hunt cannot be with us tonight. Work is being totally unreasonable and demanding
work.
his presence
yeah.
into the wee hours.
Yeah.
So,
We miss him.
unfortunately, we do. I do have a line from him about this movie, so I'll wait till we get into it here. Also joining us is Bill Mulligan, writer, director, and special effects guru, and co-host of Decades for the 1970s. How are you, Bill?
I'm feeling all white. See, it's stupid. It
See-
just, yeah. He can make that. He can make that sound good. Chad, yeah. But
You are.
I don't know.
I'm feeling.
You pretty much are.
Okay.
Except your
Much
eyebrows,
am
maybe.
all
Maybe
white,
your
though.
eyebrows.
It kind of didn't come across the way I thought you. Okay, that makes. Okay, it works.
See,
It works.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
it
gonna
worked.
get
Okay.
we're gonna get letters. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I am going to see if I can read this. I had a different one of these up, but it was a picture Bill had, so I pulled a different one. And I didn't take time to try to find a font I could read better. So hopefully people can see this. So, and spoiler alert, I guess, I listened to another podcast where they talked about how people haven't seen these movies yet and they don't want to ruin it for them. But we're kind of like, look, go watch it if you haven't seen it. We're going to spoil it. We're going to talk about the ending. We're going to talk about the twists.
Who listens to a
everything.
podcast about a movie and then gets upset that they talk about the movie? I mean,
Well, the end of the movie. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So our topic this episode is Lady in White from 1988. Written, directed, and the music by Frank LaLoggia. Cast includes Lukas, Haas, Len Cariou, Alex Rocco, and Catherine Hellman. Actually, there's a lot of people in this.
Yeah.
It was filmed in New York, Lyons, Buffalo, Phelps, Canandaigua. I don't know if that's right or not. Newark,
That's our name.
Rochester, South Bristol, and Kauai, Hawaii, and L.A. for the studio pieces. Bill, you familiar with those places?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Rochester, and it's certainly looking at this film. I'm from upstate New York, and it was pretty obvious to me. I've seen places like that. There's a lot of those little towns and everything, but
Yeah.
the only one that really jumps out at me is obviously Buffalo and Rochester, which are pretty large cities.
And actually, some of it looks like Northwest Iowa. There's a
Mm-hmm.
hilly area with a bunch of rivers. And
Small towns are pretty much the same everywhere.
So this was filmed. They started filming September 29th, 1986, and finished before the end of 1986. But it was not released until April 22nd, 1988. The budget is $4.7 million. The domestic box office was 1.7 million. And we do have there is some reasons for that.
Yeah.
And the synopsis is: an author tells the story of how, as a young boy growing up in a 1960s small town, he was haunted after witnessing the murder of a little girl.
Okay.
Yep. Fair.
And that's Catherine Hillman looking in his bedroom window over his shelf of Universal Monster models.
Mm-hmm.
And our little Lukas, Frankie, asleep in bed. Okay.
Cool room.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It looked like my room. Cleaned.
I did forget the one AKA. Most of them are like the language translated into this.
Yeah.
But the Germans, of course, Die Fantische Reise ins Jenseits, which means a fantastic journey into the afterlife.
Okay.
Seems a little clinical, but
yeah, it does.
It does. And now, time for taglines. And I'm sorry, Bill, I did not create a separate logo for you all. Bill is gone. But we do have everything. It's time for taglines with Bill. And you may have recognized that song. I don't know.
Yeah. God, that'll never not be funny.
A little bit later.
His expression is great. Okay, we got 3 taglines. He witnessed the murder. Then he met the victim.
Okay. Well, that's kind of backwards.
Yeah. That's the twist. That's not how it usually works. Second one. A ghost story that truly haunts. This one is going to scare you senseless. Pretty bold claim. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Let's not promise too much.
I like this movie a lot, but I still have my senses.
My senses are still. I got my sense of smell back and everything. This one's a little long. The year is 1962. The place is Willow Point Falls. Nobody talks about what happened in the school cloakroom 10 years ago. Now, in the dead of night, Frankie Scarlatti is going to find out why.
Wow.
From the school of Synopsis for...
it tells you everything. I'd read that on the poster and be like, am I supposed to know who the hell Frankie Scarlatti is?
Right. It's like one of the Boys to Men or something. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so that's it.
And that's Chad, a.k.a. Bill, with the tagline.
Taglines with Bill.
Well, the taglines are us.
Wait. Can we have the music? Can we have that?
We'll find out. It's a 90-year-old song. So
man, statute of limitations should be up by now.
We'll try.
It's got to be 100, but maybe.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's 100 years. But
100 years.
But it might work. It might.
Well,
that's
if we do,
old.
it gets cut. So
there we go.
Oh well. Yeah. All right. Well, first impressions. I picked this movie, and Bill and I were talking about this a little later, and I don't remember seeing this before, but I remember pieces of it. So I'm thinking, maybe the kids were watching it or something, and I wasn't paying attention. I did not go see it at the theater, and it did not really get around too much at the theater. But I really liked this movie. I love the family dynamics. I love the mystery of it and the way the story is told. And the kids, for the most part, are pretty good. And the other acting. I love the grandparents in the family. Mm-hmm. I thought they were hilarious. I'll be interested in hearing how obvious it was, I guess, for you guys, I think. And it's a beautiful, I think, beautifully shot and heartfelt. The blue screen stuff looks kind of dated now, but I'm not going to hold that against it. Not any gore. It's a ghost / murder mystery story with a serial killer of children. So anyway, and I'm going to say what Chad said. We chatted a little bit, and he said this is the best Spielberg movie he never made.
Yeah.
So it does have a feel. It does have a little bit of a feel. Like the Amazing Stories TV show, that kind of stuff.
Yes,
so.
yes.
All right. Well, let's hear from Crystal. What do you think of Lady in White?
So I have not seen this movie until yesterday. Yeah. So it's interesting that you kind of bring up the Spielberg thing. To me, it actually kind of reminded me of a slight little horror-ish, sort of a Christmas story. I don't know why it felt like a Christmas story.
Well, yeah. Because there's a narrator. I was going to talk that about. Right. There's a narrator like in the Christmas Story. Yeah.
Well, and then he actually sends away, like he sends away and gets the stuff back, like his little decoder ring, but this is a typewriter, and so I feel like I thought the movie was great. I thought the story was great, although it did not answer a ton of questions it should have, like why was this happening? What was going on here with this? There seemed to be no real rhyme or reason with who he chose and stuff. And that's not really usually how things work with serial killers. But that's okay, whatever. The fact that there was a narrator was unnecessary. None of that. That whole bit could have just been gone, and they could have saved some money with whatever it was that they were trying to do with that. But I liked the way it was shot. I think the acting was wonderful. Like I said before we started this, that the kid is precious, so cute. I did like the way the story played out, and I liked the brother. I liked their relationship. I mean, there's a lot of good to this, but clearly this is this is like an after school special of horror. It's really sweet, kind of. It's sad. It's very sad because of the subject matter, but it's not very scary, like at all. But
you're not scared senseless?
I'm. Oh God.
Oh.
That's what maybe I am.
Yeah. No, you're definitely choked up.
Actually, it did make me really sad at the end. Like I was a little sad. So, admittedly, it is emotional. But I mean, you're dealing with the death of children, so of course that's always emotional. Yeah. And racism. God, that was horrible. Yeah. That was a tough one. I was like, oh my God, what are we dealing with here? But the movie was good. I enjoyed it. So I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah, good. You know, I was thinking it was sort of a different from something like Cannibal Apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's
sort of a family
different
Halloween movie because it's set in Halloween, right? So, and partially Christmas. So, Bill, how about you? What did you think?
It is a family Halloween movie, but then there's some things that are in there that just like, when one of these cute little cherub kids suddenly drops the N-word and you're like, Yahtzee, what, it's still a slap in the face. Now, in fairness, it should be a slap in the face. And the fact that, racism was so casual back then is true to it. It's just that it gives it a weird tone. And in fact, the whole sequence, okay, so here's the thing. I had to have seen this movie before, but I have virtually no memory of having seen it. But I distinctly remember the little girl singing, "Have you ever seen a dream walking?" Well, I mean, that's as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, I have seen this movie. And the whole scene where the janitor is assassinated, is killed in the car, I knew that scene completely. So that is the one thing that has registered in my brain from when I saw it. So I must have seen it on HBO or something back in the day, but it didn't really stick in my head. it's a good film in a lot of ways, but I think it just misses the mark of being a really good film. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's trying to do a little too much. Some of the whimsical qualities are a little too much there. The music, which I mean, he composed this, so this is what he wanted. But some of the music is a little too on the nose. Um, the humor is a little too forced. The grandparents and everything, they're cute. I mean, all these elements are fine by themselves, but they come into sort of a puzzling mix when we're fundamentally dealing with a serial killer of children. I don't know if there was. I didn't really pick up on a weird sex element or anything, but I don't know
Yeah, it was
why does anyone do this?
odd.
Well, it
Why
did say
does he
molested
do
and
this?
murdered at some
Yes,
point.
yeah.
Oh, they
They
did.
kind
See,
of
I didn't
they
hear that. I didn't
they
hear
drop
that
that
at
in
all.
there, and
That's
it's
just
like, ooh,
weird.
well, that kind of changes. Okay, and the other thing is now maybe it's because maybe this is subconsciously something else I remember, but I don't think so. I knew who the guilty party was
Of
within five
course,
seconds of introducing
easily.
him. Look,
Yep.
if there's a movie that there's a mystery on who the killer is,
Yep.
it's usually pretty easy to figure out when there's a character who has no reason to really be there, but is there. That gets
Mm-hmm.
scenes that he doesn't deserve for
Yep.
no reason. And it's like, there's going to be a payoff to this. There had better be a payoff to why I'm listening to this guy's sad story of woe about, oh, I lost my parents in a driving accident when I was a kid, blah, 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 whatever. Who the hell are you? Oh, you're the killer. Yeah.
Well,
So
he's sort of he's almost like a adopted brother of
sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
the father of Alex
Which
Rockefeller.
is
And
which is a backstory we don't need to know about unless we
Mm-hmm.
do. And and of course, part of it is, if you write a screenplay, you start learning, you start figuring out red herrings and
Mm-hmm.
misdirection and everything else. But yeah, then once that seed's planted in your head, everything this guy does becomes immediately sketch. Oh, he's given, here's a bow and arrow, we're going to go practice with this. Yeah, I'll bet you are. So yeah, no mystery there. And the one of the problems I have with the things, I've been watching a lot of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies too, and like, you live in this town where all the kids are killed. Move. Why would anyone
Yeah,
stay in this
I
little
know.
tiny town where all these kids are being murdered? There's a whole bunch of them. A small town like that would tear itself apart trying to find the guilty party. So it is believable that they would totally blame the janitor and do all that stuff and everything. But the idea that people seem to know that we're living in a town where one or two kids disappears every year.
Mm-hmm.
well, and actually, I was looking at the pictures when they showed the newspaper, and every one of them was in like late September to like the first week of November.
Yeah.
So if it's Halloween and nobody's died, isn't the whole town going to be on edge after 10
Oh
years in
yeah.
a row?
Yeah.
It's never
That'd be your
mentioned
local town legend. Yeah.
until Frankie is almost killed. So anyway, yeah, there's some blind spots. At the same time, this is crazy. There are so many versions of this out there. The original theatrical cut was 113 minutes. The director's cut was 118 minutes, which came out in England, I believe, on a DVD. The extended director's cut, which was on the Shout Factory one from 2016, was 126 minutes. And the director said, yeah, the first cut was 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Oh
So
my God.
they
That's
cut
too
a
much.
whole lot of stuff out. And he said
Thank
he
God.
cut a lot of favorite scenes, but that he just had to. It was slowing it down too much. So there may
Right.
have been, and I saw a reel of some of the outtakes or the ones that were cut, and it did explain a couple things a little better, but not.
You can tell watching this movie that this is made by someone who loves the material, loves the story.
Yep.
I mean, this is a one-man show as much as a movie can be. The guy
Pretty
did
much.
everything.
Um,
And I'm sure he would have been perfectly happy to make a movie about just this kid becoming a writer, probably very autobiographical, and the
Mm-hmm.
wacky times with his grandmother and his smoking grandfather and everything else. But nobody's going to make that movie. No one's going to give you money for it, so you got to put some fantasy or horror elements into it. But yeah, some of the stuff that was in there, it wasn't necessary, but it does give this movie a very unique quality. This is an unusual movie. this would be, I think, a really good gateway horror movie if you've got maybe some younger kids old enough now to something with a little bit of scares, a little bit, people are dying here. There's someone is murdering children. That's a big concept for a kid, but it's not so graphic. And the effects, while dated, have a kind of that charm to them, that practical effect charm. The folks who did the special effects in this, Ernie Farino, there was one of those guys. He was one of the guys who was very active in like the low budget Cinemagic magazine, how to do your own special effects thing. The stop motion. I mean, he's from a certain time. This is a movie made by people who love movies, and that love does come through.
So to get back to the box office, two things that I guess you said it was kind of a one-man show. He and his cousin, Frank and his cousin, raised the 4.7 million with a penny stock offering. I have no idea what that is. They claim that it's the only time that's ever happened. I don't know if that's true or not.
Sounds illegal as bleep, but okay. They did it.
But anyway, they eventually got there. And then I saw something else written that they said, let's see, they sold the foreign rights to Samuel Goldwyn Productions for $1 million advance and 70% of all foreign sales, bringing their foreign earnings to over 2.7 million. Home video rights went to Virgin Vision for 2 million. And New Century Vista picked up U.S. theatrical while guaranteeing 1 million. So they made their money back.
Okay.
Even though it says 1.7 million domestic box office with all these other deals,
which is a pretty good thing that most first time filmmakers aren't going to be able to say that they broke even, didn't lose their shirts.
Well, and he had maybe we should do that. Well, he did not want to compromise unless he made the compromise. So even when it came to distributors, a big name distributor told him, "I'll take the movie, but you're not killing the custodian." And he said, "No, I'm not changing that." So it went to a minor player that didn't get it as far and didn't do what they told him they were going to do and that kind of stuff. So anyway.
I've read some interviews with this guy, and he's an interesting person.
Yeah,
very uncompromising, very much a stick to his own guns. And I think the result of that is he hasn't made that many movies.
Yeah, I'd see that. Yeah,
but that's listen, that might be worth it to him sometimes. Yeah, and he did an interesting one, Fear No Evil. I don't remember what year that came out, but I think it might be.
It's early 80s, I think.
Early 80s. We'll have to do that sometime. That's an interesting little movie too. But he tells his tales of woe about interference and all that, and he just doesn't seem like somebody who really wants to deal with that kind of nonsense.
Killing the janitor was smart because it was emotional and because it was sad, and because if you're going to play along this racism thing, you might as well take it there. Because that's part of the whole issue. And like, he died, he didn't need it. I think that was actually, I agree with him for absolutely sticking to his guns there, because you've got this mom, this sad mom. She probably is thinking in her brain, oh, he got let off. He did it, obviously, because they said he did. I think that was the smart play, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. And it raised the stakes too, because we're talking about, these are murders that have happened in the past. So, it's like, well, how do we show the damage that's being done by this guy? That, he's even, besides the people that he's killed and the child that he's threatened, the protagonist, this disease is infecting the whole town. And now here's 2 more lives that have been ruined. One ended, and that woman's going to jail or an insane asylum for the rest of her life. So yeah, it was a necessary thing.
Yeah, I felt like a lot of this was about how an evil like that, how that seeps into the town and affects other things, all the things that were going on. It got to where after 10 years, the police were just looking. He literally says
Yeah.
He's black, so he makes a
scapegoat.
great
I know.
scapegoat.
He's
Yeah.
perfect for us. Yeah.
He doesn't really give a crap if he did it or not. Luckily, the grand jury doesn't buy it, and then as he's walking out of the courthouse, the mother kills him.
Yeah.
I mean, they should have known better. I would hope that if this was right now, that they would have never let her anywhere near him.
Right.
Because that's insane.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to look at it logically, it's like, of course, the grand jury they had literally no evidence. Their evidence was somebody was attacked in a room, and this guy was also in the building. It's like, yeah, I'm guessing the attacker would not still.
He was drunk in the building late at night, sleeping.
Yeah, so I think that kind of eliminates him as a suspect, to tell you the truth. But I'm no.
Well, the other thing that shows a little bit of the town, and maybe that's just a social thing, I don't know. But if you noticed at the funeral, or at the church service in between, all the black people were sitting in the back of the church on one side.
Well, it was still in the 60s.
This was the 60s,
so
right?
Still, segregation had only ended like 10 years before or something.
Oh, this is. I mean, and no, this is taking.
Oh no,
place
this is right when. In fact, to time it in the culture, and I didn't look it up to see if the year was right, but they're watching a news piece where they're talking about James Meredith being the first man to segregate the University of Mississippi. So that sort of placed you in the.
So we're during that time. Then wow, I thought that was done well before, but yeah. So yeah, it's yeah.
Alrighty. Well, here's the poster.
I love it.
I like the poster, but the title is too.
Poster. I don't like the font. Yeah, I have trouble reading it, but it's nice to see a poster that's moody and well lit and a lot of shadow. But I can't read what that says on there. I guess that's that big tagline that I read.
It is.
That's ridiculous.
It is. Exactly.
That's the most ridiculous thing. Oh, God.
But it's a nice artistic piece.
That's a great shot.
Poster I remember. Yeah, it's great.
So let's be honest, though. I've got to say that font, while a little too hard to read, it is very reminiscent of a lot of fonts from the 80s. Like those.
Oh, don't get me started on. If you could see some of the fanzines that I wrote when word processing first became a thing, I would use a different font for every paragraph.
Yeah.
I should have been horsewhipped for the nightmare inducing visuals that I put out into the world. Thank God my space is no longer around. There we go. So yeah,
the top one is Russian or Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Greek.
That's kind of cool looking.
So I was surprised to read from the notes that apparently a lot of people thought the mask he was wearing was Nixon. I thought it was Bela Lugosi from the get-go.
Yeah,
I didn't get it.
We know that, but I guess the normies out there thought it was Tricky Dicky.
What? Yeah. Oh my God. He's wearing a cape. Right.
I don't know what Nixon did in his home life. I mean, no one was looking.
I could see people thinking that, but it's like, come on. That's so, it's funny.
So Crystal brought up, wrong one, Lukas Haas.
So cute.
And there's the shot in the top is the scene that the poster is from.
Right.
Yes.
And the center shot is where he's in the room reading the story. And I got to say, I was thinking about that room because when he goes back into that room after they all leave, the room is just like it's like a dump, a garbage pit.
Oh,
or
it's
something.
Yeah.
And was that maybe they just thought,
they're having a party.
That's Mr. Williams' job. We'll just leave that there. Nobody else.
Yeah, maybe that's why they thought the custodian did it because he saw that room and snapped.
And then in the bottom is
these party, right?
The two kids that were. Well, they were having a Halloween party.
Yeah. But dang, that was a lot of fun, boy. Now I will say, Halloween parties in the '60s in school were in fact a lot of fun. We all dressed up, and we had a great time. And as the years have gone by, they've managed to suck all the fun out of all those things.
Yeah, we never got to dress up at school. No, you did.
Yeah, when I worked at the bookstore at the mall, and they started doing the kids would trick or treat at the mall, and it was
Right.
like an assembly line. I just was like, this is not fun.
This is awful.
You know?
No, you're supposed,
You might as well
to
just
run
give
around
them
with a
bags of-
plastic pumpkin.
Just give them bags of candy and
Right. Just give them a big bag of Snickers and have them stay home. And, you know, you walked around with a plastic pumpkin, and the big kids would try to steal your candy, and people would be throwing toilet paper around. And it was just a great old time.
Yeah. I remember walking around the neighborhood in the dark.
Yeah.
Getting scared a little bit.
Oh, and sometimes the costumes were like, you know, just solid black costumes. It was a death trap and everything. And then I know when it ended, when they started talking about, I heard there was a rumor about a kid who got an apple with a razor blade in it. And supposedly hippies were like putting drugs into the candy and handing it out to kid, which is horse crap. Because people with drugs do not just hand them out to kids. Drugs cost money.
Rainbow fentanyl. I mean, that's going on right now. I've been hearing that.
Yeah. Remember candy dots on the paper, and supposedly they would put LSD on the dots and everything, which is the only way those dots would ever taste good. That was the worst candy ever. But
yeah.
All right.
It was a good time. Anyway, Lukas Haas is great. He's great in this movie. He's just a good actor. He's got those soulful eyes. And
he was coming off of Witness.
Right. He was great in that. He was great in Mars Attacks.
Him at all in anything. So I don't know who he is.
Do you remember Mars Attacks?
Yes.
He was the hero. He was the boy with the grandmother who, you know, ends up taking out the Martians.
Oh wow. I just don't remember him though.
Yeah.
Like not that's a movie that has a lot going on.
There's so many, there's a lot to remember.
So, well, Witness,
not that
Witness
this guy's ever going to.
Witness is the one with Harrison Ford and Kelly McGillis in the
set in the Amish
murder
community.
Amish community.
But he's very good, and you know he manages to make this role. This role could be too cute, too cloying, and everything, but no, he's good.
He's good.
You have sympathy for him. He's very expressive. Yeah.
Well, he wasn't that. I liked it that he wasn't that smart ass kid from sitcoms. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because kids just are so.
That was the blonde boy behind him.
A little bit. Yeah.
Got a punch to the face for all his trouble.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen much of his stuff since then. Although he's still doing things.
Still working. Yeah. But he was very good in this.
Oh, he was in the War of the Worlds TV series. Alrighty. So yeah, I thought he was great in there, and he's very good at doing the wide-eyed, you're freaking me out take. You know.
Yeah.
Trying to cover his mouth, etc. Oh wait, he was one of the guys in The Revenant.
Oh yes.
I forgot that.
That's right.
All right, Lukas Haas. So, Dad.
Oh, this guy. Here's the thing. Moe Greene is one of my all-time favorite movie characters, and I would not have recognized him when I pulled him up on IMDb. It's like he was in The Godfather. It's like, oh, was he now? What was he? He was Moe Greene. I'm like, what? I still don't see it. So I literally am the person who, if Clark Kent takes his glasses off, I'm like, where did Clark go, Superman?
Oh shit, that's funny.
This guy is hard working. 173 credits.
Wow.
I
definitely recognize him from other things. I don't know what.
He makes a good dad.
His voice and his face.
Or a good guy who gets shot in the eye because he, insulted Michael Corleone. So he's just a good actor. He's got range and he's good. He played a very likable dad in this movie. A realistic, likable, single, raising kids on his own because his wife died kind of thing. And you're rooting for him, and you got the feeling dad's going to come through in the end. This kid's got all this. He's got all these problems and everything, but he's got a strong family element, the whole theme of family. Of course, then it turns out that the killer is sort of family. Which
I would have swore he was a regular on some TV cop show, but I'm not seeing it. I didn't spend the time to look ahead of time, so oh well.
I bet he was on a lot of cop shows though.
Yeah. Well, and he was the sort of like the ethics principled center of the movie. Like he was not, even though everybody else thought the janitor killed the
Right.
kids, he was not buying into it. And he helps the woman when,
Yeah.
he helps the guy's wife when the woman comes up and spits on her in church, I think.
Right.
Did she do that?
Yeah. He
gives her right home, and his son was the last one attacked. So,
right. Yeah, he's the decent, good guy, in the small town. He's not the one who's going to go with the crowd. He's the Atticus Finch kind of guy who's, stick to the code. So,
and another one that's a really
Catherine
chick from Who's the Boss?
Yes,
Okay.
and Soap.
That's what I thought.
And Soap. Yep.
And
Yeah.
Soap. But I know Who's the Boss.
And
like
the
Soap.
facelift in Brazil, right?
The facelift in Brazil,
What
and then the one
hell is that?
the one at the bottom. Yeah. If you ever see Brazil,
What?
Terry Gilliam's
Brazil's-
Brazil.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie. And then the middle one is Time Bandits.
Oh yeah.
She played the
What
troll's
the
wife.
hell?
Yeah, she's having a
What the-
facelift and they just
She's-
grab and pull back.
Like her face is rubber, like they pull it clear out. Then
Why? What is that? What is that? What
She's getting a
what
facelift.
is this?
It's a futuristic dystopian. It's hard to
Movie,
describe.
yeah.
Brazil.
Yeah, it is. De Niro plays a.
Makes it, I'm like,
Oh, you
I
don't
don't
need
know
to
what-
worry about that.
no, it just
I don't know.
freaks me out. Just the whole.
I know it is creepy.
Ew.
But she had this great. She was great at playing comic roles, but she was not limited to that. She was very
No.
good in this, I thought.
Now, she was a good actress. She had a unique look. She
Yeah.
even as she got older, she still had this youthful quality
Sexy,
to her. She,
kind of.
yeah, it's hard to describe. She's just one of those people blessed with just really good cheekbones, I guess, that as you look at her young and she's like, ooh, she's young and hot, and then as she gets old, she's still really super attractive and has always, no matter what she's playing, always been a good actress. But you're right, she had great comic timing, but she looks scary as crap in this.
Yeah.
Just a good actress who I really think should have done more. They should have used her more often.
So he got some good, I think, actors for this, and that's one of the things that helps make it work.
Well, I've noticed that in his movies, in his limited number of movies, he's worked with some really good people.
Well, I don't know what, his credits in IMDb are pretty slim, but he was doing something in the industry because he had lots of friends. Every one of these people he talks about, well, they were a friend of the family. So I got her to do the part, that kind of thing. So I don't know exactly how that worked, but anyway, well, she's got over 100 credits.
Yeah.
Did a repeat role in Everybody Loves Raymond.
Mm-hmm. Well, she was so
Coach.
popular from Soap and what you say, Who's the Boss was the other
Who's
one?
the Boss? Yeah.
Yeah, she's one of those characters. If she showed up on a sitcom or something, the audience applauds because it's like, oh, it's her. Everyone knew her. She was just really good at what she did. I really liked her. I felt sad when she died. I don't think she was a spring chicken when it happened.
She was like 90.
Well, did you figure out the connection between her character and the lady in white?
Yeah, I'm assuming she was the grandmother, is what I thought.
I thought she was.
Maybe.
I thought she said something about. That's what I thought, but then I think it was a sister.
Yes.
Oh, it was a
Okay.
sister. That was it. You're right.
Because I had a hard time figuring it out because it's
what it
just
was.
one little line and it's sort
Yeah.
of it's not real loud. It's just kind of anyway. Yeah, she was nominated for 7 primetime Emmys. So yeah.
I think the problem is they made her look so bad and so old here. She just
sister
felt
didn't work,
So
yeah.
separated, yeah. But
Well, you
I
have
know
to-
They were trying to make her look bad,
You also have to realize the death they were talking about was 10 years before. So
That's
now
not that
she's
long though.
But
10
even
years
10 years
older.
doesn't seem to. Yeah. And I guess grief will do that. And she's
Yeah.
been living in an old house playing the piano, hasn't been moisturizing or anything. But But yeah, it
Well,
did.
they did it so she could. So obviously,
Right.
we thought she was the lady in white. That was the
Right.
whole point. That was the whole thing, and I get it. So I just
Yeah.
accepted it. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, no problem. Sounds good. Whatever, you know.
And she fought to the bitter end too. And here's one of the things I didn't like is, okay, look, if we're gonna do a ghost story and everything, if we're gonna get the ending where all the ghosts come together and everyone's happy, where was she? She should have been there too. She should have been the Force ghost, holding
Oh
hands with the other
yeah.
two. You know?
Oh,
Come
because
on
she just
here.
Good
burned
point.
up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
she
that
had
might
a
have been
terrible,
that would have
Well,
been
horrible
kind
death.
of cool.
I don't
Yeah.
know though. Maybe
The whole goal of the thing was to unite
Mhm.
them, and maybe she wasn't.
Right.
I don't know. I
Right.
don't know.
maybe it's
Well, let's
because
look at some of that.
she was burned. That's what we'll try to say. That she was released.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. I
Mhm.
guess that's true. So I mean, look, these are lo-fi effects here,
Mhm.
but that's okay. They don't have to be. It doesn't have everything. Doesn't have to be Spielberg ramped up to 11. They've got that cool little that I've always liked this effect where if you have a blue, especially a vivid blue in the background with red in the front, it creates an artificial 3D effect. There's a term for this, but I don't know exactly what it is. They used it to great effect in what was that, Crimson Peak. They used that to
Oh,
great effect, and they used it a bit here. I thought it worked. Yeah, these effects are kind of cheesy in a bit, and especially the middle one where they're floating toward each other. But okay, that's all right. I'm okay with it.
yeah.
I don't.
It was a
Go,
little
go
over
ahead.
the top at the very end when the light goes
Yeah.
up and
Yes.
spins around. That was a little much, but okay. I'm like, okay.
Xanadu.
I love Xander too.
Yeah. I didn't really. I've
Bad, I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know.
So
I've
this
never
little girl,
understood the
I don't really
mythology,
love
though.
Xander.
Why is this happening? Like Crystal, you're saying, why is this? What what are the rules for ghosts? It's like something bad happens, then your spirit wanders the earth. So is the janitor going to be wandering the school now? Because he had a pretty traumatic ending.
Yeah, I did.
What was it that we had to do to get the two of them together? Was it killing the killer?
seemed like it, didn't it?
Yeah, I think
Because
so.
they were both wandering the same area as ghosts.
So what's to stop these ghosts? Look, I don't mean to tell people how to do their job. I don't like it when someone comes into a classroom and tells me how to, do a lesson plan. But if that's the whole goal here, why not just, instead of singing Bing Crosby songs and everything, just like appear before the police captain, like, hey, look, this is the killer. I'm going to write his name down for you right here. And okay, well, there, off you go. I mean, why they got to cast crumbs around for everyone to, become like Scooby snacks to go chase down this? Why are you appearing before a 9-year-old kid to try to solve this mystery? It's just going to get him hurt. But okay, it
well,
all worked out.
that was. I think part of that was. I mean, I understand there's still questions around it, but they were apparently she was killed at 10 o'clock at night, and he
Right.
was locked in the cloakroom, and it was 10 o'clock at night, and she must
Right.
have been spending some time with good old Uncle Phil, and then ended back up in the cloakroom. I don't know if that's so. If she's appearing in the cloakroom, nobody else is going to see her. Because one of the things that surprised me was how his older brother Gino, saw her right
Saw
away
him.
when they were.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That-
Or her. I mean. Yeah.
So, but I was cool with it. I thought it was kind of a neat scene.
Yeah.
And he goes and figures out the class ring thing.
Yeah.
All right. And spooky stuff. So, yeah.
And look, mom's got the ability to throw bolts of lightning. Oh,
I
also,
know.
I just want to say, what was this house made out of? Because I'm thinking equal parts of
I know.
gasoline and oily rags or something.
Well, it was.
Man, you just throw a candle down there and whoof, it goes up. Like,
well, it was all dried up old wood, and
she hadn't dusted in years.
yeah, the woman hadn't. She kept the girls' room, but it was filled with candles.
It's a powder keg.
She kept the girls' room the same, but wow. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I've spent hours trying to get a campfire going, and these people can burn down an entire house in
Yeah.
about 13 seconds.
Well, there's some nice misdirection here because everybody, I mean, the kid calls her the lady in white.
Right.
And then when she comes down the stairs towards him, she looks like she's floating almost.
Yeah, she's got that mysterious indoor wind that only affects her.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Anyway.
She does look scary there. She looks almost skeletal there. She's got a, you know, probably because, like I said, she had those high cheekbones, which, you know, you can glam yourself up to look really good, but you can also kind of darken the cheeks a little bit, and all of a sudden it goes from fashionable to skeletal real easily. Barbara Steele, same way, you know. It's a cool look.
You guys, I guess we've kind of talked about it. You mentioned how the racism that was present, and how I sort of talked about how this sort of like infiltrated the community and made it worse. It brought out the racism, and she shoots the guy. I was a little shocked at first. I didn't quite get that when Agnes, one of the kids' mothers, shoots Harold in the car, that it went straight through Harold's head and through the windshield and hit his wife.
Yeah.
It did hit her?
Yeah, she had a wound like in her shoulder.
Right up.
I saw
like
the blood, but it didn't. She didn't look like she got hit. Like the way she acted or reacted.
What's his?
Different. She was
Frankie's
in two different
Frankie's
kinds of
dad.
shock.
Frankie's dad said something about she's been hit or something like that, or she's shot. First time I watched it, I thought it was just blood splattered through the hole. I thought, well, that's anyway.
I mean, that was a taste for what it's showing, for what it's implying. It was tastefully done. You know, we don't need to see heads blown apart like cantaloupes. But again, a scene that seems a little out of place in such an otherwise, in most ways, kind of gentler, family-friendly horror.
But
it's what makes this movie so unique. I'm trying to think of another film that's you know, would be a good double feature with it, and I'm not 100% sure what that would be.
10 kids molested and murdered. They don't show any of that, although we see the girl's ghost being carried by the killer in the cloakroom there, and then we also see her thrown off the cliff. And then when her mother sees her, she jumps off the cliff. And apparently the sister wanted to kill herself too, but they wouldn't let her. Instead, locked her up. They wouldn't let her. Go figure. I really liked the grandparents. I just thought they were fun, and it was fun how the family went along with it, you know. Would a guy go drown himself in the bathtub because his wife wouldn't let him smoke? Probably not, but it was funny.
But he wasn't being serious. Everyone knew he wasn't serious. I live in a family that were that dramatic. So we would do that. We would totally be like, I'm gonna go kill myself right now. I mean it. I'm putting my head in the sink right now. And then we just did it for attention because we're weird. Yeah.
Okay, leave us a note. You know, it's like,
yeah, because they know I wouldn't be serious.
Well, I thought it was great when the kid, when the older brother was in the basement looking through his dad's chest trying to match the rings up, and Papa comes down the stairs. And when it was great the way they shot that. You see his feet come in the screen, come down the stairs. At first you see these furry slippers, and you're thinking, oh, this must be Grandma. What's she doing? And then they see the bathrobe, and then, oh, it's Grandpa going to smoke in the basement. He's got cigarettes hidden everywhere. Anyway, there's a lot of comedy there, I thought. A lot of good stuff. And those are, what were those? Played by Renata Vanni, played Mama, and Angelo Bertolini played Papa. And I don't think he did anything else, but she was in a fair amount of things. She looked familiar to me.
She did look familiar. Probably playing variations of what we saw here, because she did it well.
Agreed.
had been in stuff for quite a while. And then Papa Charlie Angelo Bertolini. This is his only. Oh no, he does have some more credits. This was his first credit, though. No, it wasn't. Now he was in Wrong is Right, and he was in a Beretta. He only did about 4 things that's listed, so I don't know. I always wonder how much, like local theater and stuff like that these people did. They were probably mainstays in there.
Right.
And let me see. Len Cariou, not exactly sure how to pronounce it. He ends up being in Blue Bloods right now.
Oh.
He's a regular on Blue Bloods. He plays Tom Selleck's dad, I think.
He's been in 255 episodes, so yeah, that's a nice late paycheck right there. Good for him. He's been in a lot of cop shows from the looks of things.
And he is, 39 to 22 in his 80s.
Wow.
Good for him.
I didn't watch it, but he was in the new Death Wish.
I haven't seen it either.
Anyway, he's a very recognizable character actor with all those credits. A guy I'd seen a lot, and he does a good job playing the the friendly uncle / family member that has a smile on his face and everything, but every once in a while you're thinking something ain't right.
When he turns, when he finally realizes that the kid is on to him, that turn is pretty scary.
There was a scene that was cut that I saw that I wish was still in there. He stopped for a minute. He was by himself in the kid's room, and he stopped for a minute, looked at himself in the mirror. And you could tell it was one of those moments of truth, like seeing himself for what he really was. And the mirror was an oval mirror, and his face was completely circled by Universal Monster cards.
Oh, that's
there's something about it was kind of cool, but that didn't make it to the.
Did they cut that out because it just made it even more obvious than it was?
It could be, and I don't remember where at what place in the movie that would have been. He just showed the clips.
I mean, I don't know why they didn't have, usually in these films there's the red herring, the guy who we are supposed to think is the bad guy and turns out not to be. We knew it wasn't the custodian. That was for darn sure. And then once you know that, then there's no other likely suspect. It would have either been Uncle Phil here, or just they would have pulled some rando completely out of the crowd, which would have been a cheat.
Yeah, somebody out of nowhere. You pretty much knew it was. I was a little wondering because the other guy, the other welder, Tony, that worked for his dad, he shows up in a couple scenes and then disappears.
Yeah. Right.
Helps him string the Christmas lights for a few seconds, but that's it. So I don't know if he's just thrown in there to be a possible. But anyway.
once he and the dad had the conversation about his childhood, it's like game over. This is totally the bad guy.
Actually, it was obvious when he talks about the ring to him.
Ring. Right. Oh yeah. When it's like, oh, you're gonna tell one adult, and this is the guy you pick.
Right.
I knew immediately. I was like, okay, kid.
Well,
okay.
I actually thought when they had the scene in the cloakroom, when Frankie's locked in the cloakroom, and he actually first we see the vision of the girl getting killed, and all we see is the ghost of the girl. But then the killer actually comes in to look for the stuff in the ventilation duct that he dropped because they're going to replace the furnace. So he wants to get that out in case somebody would find it and connect it. But when he came in, I thought, that's Phil. That's got to be Phil. I don't know why. I just size, the way he moved, whatever it was. But all righty. I don't know. Final thoughts here?
Oh, I think it's a good watch for people. I think if they haven't seen it, might as well check it out on Shudder. Everyone pretty much got Shudder. It's kind of sad, but it's a good movie. It's well made.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
It's it's not very scary. You will keep your senses. And some of the parts of it seem a little outdated now. The effects somewhat, and the music just seems a little too on the nose. But I think it's an interesting film, and again, like I say, not a bad one to sort of ease people in. For God's sakes, you're not going to be showing a 10-year-old 30 Days of Night right off the bat. Even I'm not that crazy, so give them a few other things. This is a good one.
They
Gateway drug.
yeah, I think it's got a lot of heart. I felt for the characters, I guess, and their relationships, and so the family was a fun family.
Yeah.
Even though their mother had just died, there was a lot of tragedy in this movie.
Yeah.
His parents, Phil's parents had died.
Yeah.
Frankie's mom had died. 10 kids in the town had died. They kill the janitor, who's actually innocent.
Yeah, move out of this town. No good will come from staying there.
All right. Well, we do have some feedback.
Yay!
A few short pieces of feedback.
Short but sweet.
Maybe one of the shortest pieces of feedback from Jerry Chandler ever. Oh, and I forgot that big long one. This would be a great time to do that.
Yeah. You want us to do the short ones while you're working on it?
Go for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Episode 209, The House by the Cemetery. Ambient Johnny says, Giovanni Frezza was a step below terrible at acting in every film, and that dubbed voice, oh my God. City of the Living Dead was the best Fulci film for me.
Okay.
You want to do
That's a good one.
Genius?
216.
That's a good one.
Cannibal Apocalypse, Evil Genius. Daisy. HAL 9000 shuts down. See, Daisy can be pretty horrific at times. That's funny, actually. Okay. Anyhow, today you were talking about credits. I have a question. I was recently watching Blue Sunshine the other day, and in the credits, they had actors who were guest starring. Oh, okay. How does one guest star in a movie? A TV series, I certainly understand, but a movie, can you guys help me out? I can help you out, actually.
All right. Here we go. Expert.
Okay. So guest starring is really just about how the celebrity is billed. Like, let's say you have a more popular celebrity, but they only have a small role. You would say they're guest starring because they're a star. So it's basically like giving them more credit, even though they only have a role this big, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Is that, am I explaining that well? Yeah. So it's just like when you say introducing, like that actually singles the actor out. It's maybe someone who hasn't had very many credits, but they're being given this bigger role. So
is it also something? I'm sorry.
No,
is it also something they might like some kind of a special billing to give somebody when they can't give them more money?
Well, that's true too. Yes. Now, actually, though, some people will actually take less money to have a higher billing because your name is everything in this business. Yeah.
You're making a little weekend flick with the hope that it'll help you get the thing you really want. But yes, I've seen interviews with actors who talked about that where their agent, they wanted so much money and the agent comes back, couldn't get you that money, but you know what? I got you a guest starring credit. And they're like, great. That's not going to pay the rent, but okay.
Nope. But
so help me out.
Like the poster, when you have your name up at the top or.
Yeah. Right.
Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
Help me out on the Daisy. Was there something in that episode about that?
Not that I remember.
I have no idea.
Look, he's an evil genius. We can't really understand what's going on.
There's no way.
He's beyond us.
Mortals can't understand.
I'm not. I was like, I like
He's in his
daisies.
own little world, but they know him there.
Daisy,
Well, I hope he
daisy,
didn't watch
give
Blue
me your
Sunshine
answer,
because I said I
please.
was going to do it on 70s and then didn't do it. So now I'll have to do it again because
Yeah.
Yeah.
we did
Yeah,
Lady
you gotta do
Snowblood
it
instead.
now.
So I'll do Blue Sunshine next on 70s. Even though I'm announcing this on 80s, it doesn't count until
Yeah, it doesn't really count. You can.
No. But they'll hold you to it.
Yeah.
Like
All right. Next up
genius.
on Cannibal Apocalypse, Jerry Chandler.
La, 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 la.
Regarding Cannibal Apocalypse, Jerry says, "Don't know what it is about this movie. It's got all the ingredients to be a movie I should really dig, but there's something about it that never quite works right for me."
That's
Agreed.
actually a really good review.
Yep.
Short and to the point,
it's
which
perfect,
which
yep.
Jerry does not do in his next review.
Yeah, he
Crawl.
doesn't. Well, this is Crawl. And one of
Crawl,
the, I think
episode
he's one of the people
215.
that have been telling us to do Crawl forever, right?
Right. And apparently we just should have had him on the show and he could have
Right,
said all this. But since we didn't, our penance is for me to read this. Right up front, the budget ballooned, but wasn't all on the screen because of the early issues behind the scenes. I've seen old Starlog magazines talking about the production. For whatever insane reason, they started building the massive sets at Pinewood as fast as they could. The problem was that they were building them before they realized their shooting scripts. They actually
my
changed
God.
some major stuff in the script and had to redesign and rebuild sets. Pre-production
Well, that's
also
always
ate some of
fun.
the budget. Yeah. It evolved from a period piece fantasy to a full-on fantasy to fantasy with a touch of sci-fi after they started scouting and securing locations. They secured locations they never used because the final concept they went with put them in Pinewood for almost the entire shoot.
God.
Peter Yates also caused delays. The one thing that seems to remain the same in the tellings is that he left the production just about halfway through it, causing the FX artists to leave the production for 3 weeks. The difference, depending on who tells it, is Yates either left to blow off steam with plans to come back or he basically had to be coaxed back, but either way it created delays. The film itself, yeah, Krull works for me. I think it works for me because I don't see it as a sci-fi film, and I'm not 100% on calling it a fantasy. It is to me a very old-style English and European fairy tale given a more modern coat of paint. A lot of the things that you talked about as not understanding the thinking about around or feeling was a downer was just classic dark fairy tale storytelling. The entire Widow of the Web is fairy tale stuff. The
Yep.
bit with the sand is fairy tale storytelling. Yener now has the key bit of information they need, but the spider is right outside the center of the web. The widow breaks the hourglass, telling him it can't be turned twice for the same person. She gives him the sand, since the falling sand will stop the spider, but says the magic is tied to a price. Yener even comments as soon as he is given the sand, before he wants to start using it outside her chamber, that he can't stop it from falling. It's a fairy tale magic. It saves his life long enough for him to deliver the information to Colwyn, but it has its price. And it has that dark, strange, old school fairy tale and fantasy symmetry in the act of giving someone else their chance to get it right. The Cyclops is that same. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, if I don't know why I didn't remember that because I've read a ton
That
of
makes
fantasy
sense.
things, and they just tell you stuff. Here's what it does. Here's what this magic ring does. There's no reasoning behind it. There's no methodology.
I told y'all.
There's no
that
theoretical
this
logic.
is
It's
how
just
it
magic.
works.
I remember.
Yeah.
I was like, I said it. I
It's
said
magic.
Then the sand was attached to him. That's why he died when there was no more sand.
You're right.
Jerry is so smart.
Science.
I know.
He is.
I mean, it's so.
Yeah, we were looking
exactly.
for science, and we should have been looking for magic fairy tale stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. The Cyclops is that same kind of dark storytelling. He's walking to his death, and he's known for a long time that death is coming and how it's coming, but he dies saving the world. The glaive is a problem for a lot of people because it's talked up as this great weapon, but once obtained, it's not used much, and when used against the beast, it becomes stuck and won't come back to Colwyn.
Yeah.
As such, some people talking about it get confused about what the point of it was. But it's, again, more fairy tale than science fiction. There were exchanges between Lisa and the beast about true power. In fairy tale fashion, it is ultimately not the weapons forged by man that defeat the beast, darkness, despair, hate, but rather hope and love. The flame that defeats the beast is literally the magic binding flames used in their, thanks to the beast's attack, unfinished wedding ceremony.
Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever.
Yep.
Despair. Anyway, Sorry.
I love Krull, but I will admit that it was hurt by an injection of science fiction into its aesthetic. When they dropped the sci-fi coat of paint on it, people watching expected sci-fi logic in it when the story was still more fairy tale than fantasy. Yeah, that's very true. I really don't know why they dubbed out Lisette Anthony's voice. If you hear her in the behind-the-scenes material, she sounded great. They dubbed Robbie Coltrane as well, which is, well, insane when you think about it. You didn't even discuss the music. Capital letters here, ladies and gentlemen.
Fair enough. I said fair enough.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Obviously, hardcore Star Trek fans are going to claim James Horner's best work was on the Star Trek films, but honestly, a lot of James Horner fans consider this his best soundtrack. Some of the music just makes the scenes that it's used in.
I thought we did talk about the music. I'm surprised we didn't.
I don't remember.
That was, yeah.
There was a sort of kind of glaive toy made back when the movie dropped into theaters, but it wasn't retail. Some theaters had a promotional frisbee with the glaive printed on it. None of my local theaters had it back then. This probably also ballooned the budget. They put a lot of promotion into this. I first became aware of the film before it came out because of a really good making of program that aired on the U.S. and Nickelodeon and maybe other cable channels several times in the weeks before its release. I also remember seeing a lot more posters for this film as well as TV spots. It was promoted like it was already a big thing. I think one other thing that hurt at the box office may have been when it was released. It was an original property with an odd concept to most movie audiences and had to fight for moviegoers with Superman 3, Jaws 3D, Return of the Jedi, Trading Places, Staying Alive, War Games, and James Bond, among other films that were franchises and or had big-name stars. But for all its faults, I still love the hell out of this film. It's a wonderful fairy tale fantasy brought to life that never should be thought of as science fiction. I had it on VHS and DVD, and now I have it on Blu-ray, and it gets pulled out at least once a year when the mood strikes. And he left us a link on Journey to Krull, the making of the film, which is on YouTube, so you can see that there. And Jerry, that is a lot of wisdom in that long but fact-filled missive there. So thank you for sending that to us.
I do remember talking about James Horner when we did Humanoids from the Deep, because he did that music too.
The guy had a range.
Yeah.
I admire these people who don't say no to things. It's like, I've done classic. I did this. I did that. It's like Humanoids from the Deep. I'll do that too. Sure.
Well, it's that's when you look at credits of the people that do the music, they crank it out. The ones that are they'll have. It's not unusual for them to have 300 or 400 credits for somebody that worked a few decades. So, anyway, alrighty. Well. Thanks for the feedback, Jerry, Evil, and Ambient, if I can call you by your first name.
Stop. That's not funny. It is.
Keep
funny,
bringing
though.
keep up with the comments. We love them. Be sure to follow us, Gruesome Magazine YouTube channel, and at gruesomemagazine.com. And we're so confusing, but we have two YouTube channels, Gruesome Magazine and Heroes and Droids. So if you like adventure, sort of non-horror genre stuff, check out Heroes and Droids. Otherwise, the Gruesome Magazine channel also has Horror News Radio, weekly updates on news of horror, and theatrical and streaming releases under the title Gruesome Magazine, and Decades of Horror, which this is a part of. Yeah. If you're listening to podcast apps, you would also have to subscribe to Heroes and Droids, and you would have to subscribe to Gruesome Magazine, and you would have to subscribe to Horror News Radio, which also includes all the Decades of Horrors. So,
waka.
A little bit of an identity crisis. I usually am. So anyway, that's it for this episode, but every 2 weeks, we'll be focusing on a specific film released between 1980 and 1989. And to keep, I don't know that this takes place at Halloween, but our next episode will go live on All Hallows Eve.
Yay!
And this is one picked by Bill. What are we doing for Halloween, Bill?
Well, he's not with me at the moment, but I'm all about the kitty cats. So, and I love Stephen King. So what more natural than Cat's Eye. It's a return to the
good.
portmanteaus that we used to do all the time.
Love Cat's
We
Eye.
haven't done an anthology for quite a while.
We have not. So
excellent.
I'll have to do it in front of my kitty cat background that my wife uses.
It's been a long time since I've seen that. I remember the James
Yeah.
Woods segment very clearly, but
Yep.
the other ones
Yes.
I'm not.
Yeah, it's been long enough for me, the James Wood, because that was one of my favorite Stephen King short stories too. So yeah, we'll see.
All righty. Well, folks, thank you very much. And hopefully Chad will be back with us next time.
Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, this movie, Lady in White, is currently running on Shudder. Up until a couple weeks ago, it was on Tubi, so I think it'll probably be back there eventually. But you can check it out there. Catch us again here in 2 weeks for another great horror movie of the 1980s. As only decades of horror can do it. Say goodnight.
Good night.
Night, everybody. Hey, kids, we're doing Cat's Eye.